Welcome to Wait Shadow Legends. Hello everybody, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. We are here on the free-to-play account, but honestly, it's not going to matter for this particular video. You guys really enjoyed my breakdown of the turtles and how to get them and what it is going to cost, and I figured I would do a bit of a breakdown on how to save and what kind of targets you should be saving for honestly any kind of content. So we're going to be talking about fusions, we're going to be talking about guaranteed champions, we're going to be talking about anything and everything. And obviously these numbers are always subject to change because Polarium can and has changed how many it's going to cost for any particular champion or for what you are getting at any point in time. So with that said, let's talk a little bit of the numbers of what it takes to save up for some of these free events, as well as what you want to make sure that you have to make sure you are ready for a fusion or some other event, maybe a Titan event or maybe something else, or maybe even just a tournament that you're going to want to compete. First of all, one of the easy things to make sure you do is make sure you do your daily quests. Well, daily, as it were. The regular daily quests, generally pretty easy. Summon 3 champions can be 3 from mystery shards. Fight in 5 classic arena battles. Well, if you're working on your Great Hall, you should be doing at least 5 of them a day anyway, so that's not a major problem. Use 50 energy. You can pretty much do that sneezing most of the time in the game, so that's not a problem. Earlier on, it's certainly a little harder, but even then, there is never a place where 50 energy is less than 1 full refill, so doing 50 energy should be super easy. Increase a champion's level in the tavern 3 times. Well, remember when I was talking about mystery shards back here? You can throw a brew into a 1-star champion and that will usually get this one done. And oftentimes what I like to do is I will throw a brew and 3 1-star champions into another 1-star champion, and that gets me a 1-star champion that I can upgrade to level 2, so I now have a 2-star chicken from a common champion. Nice, easy currency, makes champion training much easier, and you can either save that champion for a champion training event, because I mean it's not a lot of points, but it's points, or you could just do it to make your roster just a little bit clearer and get it taken care of right away. Accessory upgrades, this is 4 attempts, so if you do the easy upgrade and you upgrade 1 level at a time till you hit this, that's good. It's simple. I like to make sure I save hitting to plus 12, plus 16 for some of the events sometimes, but honestly, hitting plus 12 is usually not a big problem. Normally, it's plus 16 you really want to save for the champion, for the gear enhancement events. So if it brings something up to plus 15 and you still haven't hit this for some strange reason, that means you got kind of lucky going to level 15, then go find another artifact. Or this is also a good excuse for you to roll up your gear to make sure it's all plus 8 so you know what kind of gear you have. Because if you haven't rolled some of your gear up to plus 8, you're sitting on gear that honestly could be trash, or it could be the next big treasure that you just don't know. So rolling some of that gear up is good. This is as good a time as any to roll something to plus 8. Plus 8 is usually pretty easy, and if you sell it after you roll to plus 8, it's usually a break even on silver. Purchase an item from the market. You should be purchasing mystery shards and ancient shards from the market. Just check it every little while. Yet the worst case scenarios, you have to buy a 1-star champion. Those are between 6k and 10k. Certainly not as good as buying a mystery shard, but it's not super expensive on silver. And then finally, it is either beat a campaign boss 3 times, which is again super easy, or beat a campaign level 7 times, which again, fairly easy. For me, on my low end account, I actually like to run this 10 times, which actually it's 5 times because I run it 5 times and then I have the 2x multiplier right here, so I get a bunch of extra energy. So running it 5 times on super raids gets me 10 runs of a regular, and that takes 3 2-star champions from level 1 to level 20. So it gives me a bunch of ready for a champion training event 3-star chickens, if it happens to be the 7. And if it's not, then I don't run it. On my main, on the other hand, if we go back in here to the quests, on my main, I will often, I've gone all the way down to the campaign level of, let's go here, of normal. So I know the campaign is not doing much for my account on my endgame account. I'm generally doing most of my champ training, running solo champions with other stuff, or I'm doing a bunch of it in the tavern because I have a bunch of potions. So I don't do a lot of champion training here. So I will just double run a couple of these things and save myself a bunch of energy on my ultra endgame account. Where are you with that is going to be up to you, and it's a decision that you can make. The advantage of doing that is I'm saving energy for more important things on my endgame account versus on my main account or my free-to-play account, I am still worried about leveling up champions consistently. On my main, I have so many chickens and so many brews and so many anything else. If you told me to make 26 stars, I could almost instantly. It's really almost not funny. There's just so many chickens I have just ready to go, waiting for a really cool event. And as a result, they're actually backlogging my account. So, you know, it's an end game problem, but it is an end game problem for people. So running these things that are significantly cheaper, nice and easy to do. And, you know, every once in a while when I have to do the 500 monthly ones, I'll run a couple extra and, you know, just run a, you know, save, and it cost me maybe 5 refills to run my 500. So not too bad overall. Great ways to save your resources, but make the best of the resources that you're going to be using here in Raid. And that's just the daily quests here. If we want to look at the advanced quests here, here is the neat little trick with these things. And while you want to try to do all of these things every day, there are actually 11 quests per day. You've got this one here, completed all the advanced quests for 10 of 10. That's the 11th, which means you can get 11 quests over the course of, you know, however many days this takes. So this is actually closer to 25 days to get this legendary book than it is 30 days. So keep that in mind. Every 25 days, you can get a legendary book if you're doing all of these quests. Plus, there's a bunch of energy in here. There's a bunch of keys for things like faction wars. There's a bunch of keys for Tag Team Arena. There's a bunch of keys for Doom Tower, so you can get more Doom Tower materials. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. It's a good place to get gems. This is where you can get some extra brews. You can get some charms in here as well. There's stuff in here that adds up over time the more you do these things. Meanwhile, if we look at the weekly and the monthlies here, these things last until you're done with the monthly quest. So once I get this 500 times campaign battles done, well, if this had energy in it, I could sit and save and sit on this as long as I had ways to go on this. It doesn't matter if I sit on this and wait for it to be used. This one right here, I've used one of my 2 here for these. You get 2 chances to get an extra refill. I'm going to hold on to this, but I've got basically 2 more days before I have to use this, and then it resets and I start over again. So pay attention to the dailies, pay attention to your weeklies, pay attention to your monthlies, and pay attention to your and pay attention to your advanced, and you'll find that you'll slowly but surely be building up resources. 5-star chickens, 4-star chickens, epic and legendary books, even this 3-day XP trial. As you can see, I'm free to play. I have 9 weeks worth of this XP boost because I've just been playing an awful lot and you seem to get them off them. Saving shards is definitely a little bit more difficult. For example, however, one of the reasons I recommend not running Nightmare Campaign. Nightmare Campaign, by the way, is the most effective way to get experience from energy, just from pure experience standpoint. But you lose out a little bit on silver because you get less of the silver overall. You lose out just a little bit on getting champions because I think you have a slightly better chance at 2 runs on hard or brutal that you do on Nightmare for 1 run to get another champion, although that's not really a big deal. But you stop getting mystery shards in Nightmare Campaign. And if you stop getting mystery shards, you're going to lose out on the ability to do cheap summons for your dailies, and you're going to lose out on the ability to top off or possibly even complete a summon rush for a fusion with those mystery shards. Also, for early game champion training, mystery shards are a great way to get chickens. You get 1-star champions mostly, but you'll get a bunch of 2-stars, and every once in a while you get a 3-star champion. Those are chickens ready to go for you to build up and level up the important champions without having to sacrifice valuable currency that might get you better champions in some other form, such as ancient shards, void shards, primal shards, and of course, sacred shards. So how many of these bad boys should you be saving up? Well, it's going to depend on what type of event you're dealing with. If you're talking about a guaranteed champion, well, traditionally a guaranteed champion if it's a specific shard type. For Ancients, it has been anywhere from 120 Ancients all the way up to 180 Ancients. But generally, if you're ever expecting a guaranteed from Ancients legendary champion, I would assume at least 150 Ancients. If it's been as high as 180, I think it's been as low as 120. As far as epics are concerned, the number is somewhere between 25 and 40. So generally it has been 40 of late for an epic. Now you might ask, why would you want to pull for an epic? Well, if you are trying to fuse Mikage and you are missing one or maybe two champions, pulling for that guaranteed champion makes some sense, because you're going to get Mikage, a mythical, for 40 Ancients at that point, or possibly 80 if you're going to be pulling for two different guaranteed champions. I don't think we're going to see those again for a while, but that is a reason to pull for a guaranteed epic. It's also possible that maybe the guaranteed epic happens to be somebody like Geomancer. It's actually happened before where they've done a guaranteed Geomancer ages ago. I don't know if they'll ever do it again, but if they did, well, I'd pull 40 Ancients for him as an early game player. If I didn't have a Geomancer, a guaranteed Geomancer would be a count chain. Voids are going to be a similar issue. Void guarantees, there haven't been a lot of them, but they've generally been either 120 void shards or 150 void shards. So that is a lot of voids. That's part of why it's been 120 to 150. But there's been some pretty good champions. Riho Bonespear, very good champion, was a guaranteed void. Narcissus was a very good void. And honestly, I don't know if they're ever going to do another one like that again, because I think they value the ability for you to pull as many other shards as possible. And I think they found that people will spend more shards with the other formats as well. But you also get other things out of those other events as well. So I can't say it's necessarily the worst thing in the world. Primal shards, there has never been a guarantee on primals. So I don't think there ever is going to be a guarantee on primals. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Save your primals for 2x mythicals when it is 2x everything, unless you are an absolute whale or you are very early game. And if you are very early game, using primals to complete a summon rush for a fusion makes a lot more sense, because primals are generally fairly high valued on things like a summon rush, better than voids, better than ancients, and the increased chance of getting an epic or a legendary means that they can be more impactful on an early game account as well, whereas later game accounts, you're looking for those mythical champions, so save up for those mythical champions. And finally, sacreds. I believe the last guaranteed was 15 sacred shards. You don't see a lot of guaranteed sacreds, but they have done them for the guaranteed before. So keep in mind 15 is probably the number if you're going to do a guaranteed sacred event. But what about things like these path events as well as these Deck of Fate events? Those have traditionally been 20 sacred shards, give or take one or two, to get to the champion that you're looking for. I think Packmaster was 21, maybe 22. I don't remember the exact number. For Padraig, it was 20. 20 seems to be a good number, but we've never had a path for a guaranteed void epic or champion yet. So for a void champion, I would not be surprised if they added 5 more shards onto that, making it 25 or 26 sacred shards. As far as the primals were concerned, the primals are usually, 2/3, or not 2/3, 2/5 of what a sacred shard is. So they're usually about 200 points compared to the 500 sacred shards, or in this case 5,000 compared to the 2,000 for the primal shards there. So for primals, you're basically talking about, 60 to 70 primal shards to get a guaranteed. For a void, it might go as high as 80 to 90. So that's how many primal shards you are looking for that style of champion. For void shards, it's going to be somewhere between 110 to 150 again. So in some cases, the void ones are actually a better deal, but we've never again had one for a void champion. So if it's 110 voids for a non-void legendary, that's not necessarily as good a deal as 120 for a void legendary. And finally, ancients, they honestly have mostly been not particularly useful. Unless they are worth double points, it is over 300 ancients to get a guaranteed champion from ancient shards. So you're looking at saving ancients as a last resort towards getting those. But that's not the only reason you might be saving these for. What about champion chase points for champions for fusions? And that is going to depend very immensely on the particular event. But in general, looking at how much your expected value for these shards, 30 void shards will usually get you the champion you are looking for at the highest level, so being able to get to the top, and maybe 15 to 20 voids will get you the lower level. And the reason for that is void shards give you 50 points per rare, 350 points per epic, and 650 for a legendary. So you get more from your void shards than you do from the ancient shards on just raw points in those chases, and they usually don't adjust how many points you get on those because you get less voids. So if you have 25 to 30 void shards, you mostly can do a 2x champion chase without too much of a problem with those void shards. As far as ancients are concerned, you're probably better off with 50 to 60 ancients for a 2x to be able to get the max out for a champ chase. And if you're talking about a champ chase and you're only looking for the lower level, because they're usually split up in 2 different levels if you're looking for fragments. Now, if you're looking for like a rare in a fusion, assume it's going to be the higher amount, because those often end up being the higher amount. And if they're not, that's great. But if you're looking for just the first bit of it, often 30 or 40 might do it for you. Probably closer to, probably 30 is a safe bet, and 40 would be if you get really, really bad luck. The problem with ancients is it is only 10 per rare, so you are really hoping to hit those epics at 250 points and that legendary at 500 points to get points in ancient shards. So there's a little bit more swinginess to ancient shards for pulling these things for these champion chase events. As far as primals, there has never been a 2x primal for a fusion. I don't expect that to ever happen, just because I think that they want to make sure that a primal 2x event is its own special event. As far as when we're next likely to have one of those things, for example, the ancient shards, the void shards, and the sacred shards generally happen every 6 weeks. So you get voids was this weekend, for example. The next one is probably going to be sacreds, because we've had ancients fairly recently, and then it's going to be ancients. So keeping that in mind, you're probably looking at maybe Black Friday as the next time they do a 2x primal. They will probably also do one either over Christmas or over New Year's, because traditionally they often do that there as well. But given they have actually said that there's not a lot of time that they're going to do one, and there is no mythic involved in the turtle event that goes all the way through to November 13th, which, by the way, if you want to get Michelangelo, make sure you pull him by the 13th, because if you don't pull him by the 13th, I don't think you're going to be able to get him anymore. It's either pull him by the 13th or start his champion chase by the 13th. So, you know, make sure you don't miss out on Michelangelo. He's a really cool champion. As far as sacreds are concerned, for 2x sacred events, Polarium's actually been fairly nice the last time or two this has happened, where it's been 1,000 to 1,500 points. So it is possibly, you want to assume 6 sacreds, because you never want to assume a legendary on a sacred. But if there's ever a time to do fusions or fragment summons on a champion chase event, it is during a 2x sacreds. So the fusion that is coming up as of when I'm filming this video, because we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff happening right now, and we have a new fusion for Granite Doorkeep coming up soon, that fusion is going to land on a 2x sacred. But since it's a traditional fusion, if you save up your fusion champions, you'll be able to fuse probably 2 or 3 of these puppies during that summon rush, and they're going to be affinity epics. So that is 750 points you can get fusing those champions during that summon rush. And if you need 1,500 points, you're already halfway there by just doing the fusion. So you might be able to do that. And then, for example, fuse some Broadmaws together. Broadmaw has 350 points each. You can just collect these people as you pull them through various events on the thing. Or if, you know, I don't have an Arblaster on this account here, I can start eating mystery shards until I get some of these champions, and then set a couple of these puppies aside to make sure that I can fuse those into this rare, which is going to be 50 points, and then fuse them. And that is going to be a total of, you know, 400 points just for fusing those 2 champions. And it's not like these are difficult to get up, because they are level 30 and fully ascended to level 30, level 3 ascended. So it is not even like I have to make these 4 stars before I can fuse into Broadmaw, like a lot of other fusions that require that additional step as well. But also, you know, I will pack in some of these fragment champions here. I like saving epics for these champion chase events, because they are worth 250 or 300 points compared to a legendary. And while a legendary is worth 500, or in case of Yakarl, 650 points, that is not that much more than an epic. So might as well save and fuse some of those epics when you can during these champion chase events to get a bunch of really good points per champion you're fusing. Whereas if you're going to fuse these puppies during a CVC event, for example, they're worth 30,000 CVC points if they are a new champion for you. So keep that in mind when you're doing fusions like this. You're going to want to probably save them for your champion chases to be the most efficient, but occasionally you might want to get a bunch of points here in CVC. And if I was going to get a bunch of CVC points, I would probably eat Yannicka, because Yakarl is still going to be worth more points during a champion chase in the future. Yakarl might end up getting pulled out during the champion chase for Granite, if I can manage to do Granite. But that is for your champion chases. Now, summon rushes are going to be a little bit different. So for summon rushes, you're talking, it's going to be 500 points for your sacreds, about 180 for the primals, maybe it's 200, I don't remember exactly. It is 120 for your voids, and then it is 20 for your ancients. Sometimes they'll make ancients worth a little bit more. Sometimes they'll make voids worth a little bit more. Sometimes they'll even make primals worth a little bit more. Mystery shards are worth 1 point. They'll never make mystery shards worth more. And that is where mystery shards can be helpful. So you are generally looking for around 3,000 points for the first level in most summon rushes, which is 6 sacred shards. Sometimes it will be a little less. Sometimes it will be a little bit more. I've seen it be as low as 2,500. So I've seen it be as low as 5 sacred pulls, and I've seen it be as many as almost 7 sacred pulls just for the one champion or the smaller level of fragments. And then if you wanted to get a free epic out of a fusion summon rush, that usually is all the way at the 5,000 mark. If it is instead extra fusion fragments, sometimes it's a little bit lower, sometimes a little higher. So generally you want to assume it's going to cost you 6 sacreds and some change for the first level, and probably 10 or 11 sacreds for the second level, aka a free epic that might save you a bunch of extra work on the fusion. So I recommend, honestly, saving your sacreds for those events, not even pulling on a 2x sacred in most cases, because I think 2x sacreds are a bit of a scam, because the chances of getting champions at a, it's 6%, double to 12%, per shard, but your mercy is so low with sacreds. Your mercy is after 12 sacreds, it starts going up by 2% each. So you can still pull almost 50 sacred shards and not get a legendary, even during a 2x. Difficult, but not impossible. So generally, I find that the sacred shards are better used as tools for free champions from special events, where you're getting points for them being a sacred shard, rather than pulling the shard and trying to get good champions from them directly. So that's my recommendation. Save your sacreds for summon rushes. Don't really pull them for anything else unless it is a special event. And honestly, then you can oftentimes do the second level of a special event and get the free epic that might make the entire fusion significantly easier, or get 10 extra fragments that will let you do something like skip a dungeon divers and save a bunch of gems and energy that you might otherwise spend on that dungeon diver. But if you're going to spend some money anyway for some of these summon rushes, you'll often find that the best bang for your buck is these primals. Now at 180 points, you don't think that's great, but generally that means you're talking 3 primals to 1 sacred, and oftentimes they're priced at 4 or 5 primals for 1 sacred. So that has more to do with the fact the price of sacreds are just kind of scams, and they're significantly better value than voids, unless voids are at a rate up for some strange reason as far as the amount of points you get from them. So generally primals, which cost similar to voids but only slightly more, but give you 50%, if not more, extra points, they're going to be worth more per dollar than any other shard. And ancients are really kind of the trash for summon rushes in general. You don't get a lot of points for them unless they're on rate up, but even then it's not a ton of points. And that's where mystery shards come in. When we're talking about hitting 3,000 points, well, if I have to pull 1,000 mystery shards to hit 3,000 points and then 4 sacreds, well, I'll do it. you know, it's really easy to feed these champions off now. Sometimes you get some extra rares out of it as well. You can do some champ training stuff with it, with feeding the champions while you're at it. That is a good reason to hoard a bunch of mystery shards. And that's why I don't like being under 1,000 mystery shards. And I prefer to be closer to 2,000. I just have not been able to manage to do it because I've been pulling mystery shards for events pretty regularly, at least on my free-to-play account. Still with me? I realize this has been a very long video breaking down the value of these things, but we're getting there. And one of the things I want to talk about is for the deck events and for, in theory, some of the path events, we're going to talk about the souls. Now, these souls have been in play for the deck events, and traditionally the deck events tend to lean more into the souls than the path events, but the path events have used souls beforehand. And just in general, what you're going to want to consider is that an Eternal Soulstone is going to be worth 5 times the value of an Immortal Soulstone, and an Immortal Soulstone is going to be worth 10 Mortal Soulstones. And that's generally the progression you're going to be looking for. So most of the events that I have seen have been somewhere between 8 to 12 Eternal Soulstones. Generally, you're probably going to want to assume 12 just because 10 seems like a reasonable-ish number for them. If you're getting 4,000 points and you need 40,000 points for Eternal Soulstones, that is going to be 10 Eternal Soulstones. But there's ever the possibility that for a Void Legendary, it could be lower. So you could only get 3,500 points, for example, and then suddenly it's going to be 11 or 12. So you're going to need the equivalent of 10 to 12 of these Eternal Soulstones most of the time for a free champion. And so that's going to be, that's going to be 50, maybe 60 of these Immortal Soulstones, because again, 5-to-1 ratio. And that's going to be 500 to 600 Mortal Soulstones. So how can you save up for these things? Well, you can do events that can get you these Immortal Soulstones. Obviously, Hydra gets you Mortal Soulstones, as well as doing Iron Twins Daily gets you Mortal Soulstones. There is weekly going to be an event that you can always get these in as well. If you take a look up here, we have the Sand Devil Turn Attack. There's always something where it's Sand Devil or it's the Gear Ascension or something like that. And quite often, the top level reward or the second to top level reward is going to be this medium soulstone. That is a great time to dive into this event and dive into this dungeon and farm it. And if you're an endgame player, this is the dungeon you want to be farming anyway. And if you've got a setup where you can farm food while you're doing this as well, then hey, you can get a bunch of different things done at the same time in the Sand Devil and get a bunch of rewards out of it as well. So this is definitely a good one worth doing. You can occasionally find these things in other stuff. Sometimes they're in some things like, they're sometimes in the Dungeon Divers tournament. You certainly can find them during some of these Titan events. There was like one right here. There's places to get these things, but they're not given away easily. And the Eternal Soulstones are usually gotten for maxing out something like a Summon Rush or a Champ Chase. And if you have the resources to do that, well, there's a good chance you're a spender, or you've been saving up enough that you've decided to max out one of those events to get one of these particular things. And that's great. But you're going to need a lot of these Soulstones to get a free champion just using Soulstones. So keep that in mind. You want to be holding on to these things for special events, especially if you're really looking to get some of these free champions. So sometimes, for example, I had a chance to pull these when these were rate up, and the rate up was 5 and 6 stars was better, I believe, on these particular ones. I only had 2 of them, so I didn't pull them anyway. But on my main, I had 20-ish of these things, and I didn't pull them at all. I want to get whichever champion, possibly Ralph. If we're going to get them from these Soulstones, well, I want to have as many of them available. That also means that I might not be spending some of these gold coins right here, because I might end up buying more of these things for a free champion. Generally, I would recommend more likely to convert those into this Immortal Soul Essence so you can buy souls from the Soul Merchant. But if you're trying to save up for a champion that's kind of special that comes in through these events, then there's a reason to maybe sit on these things and not spend them in either way. And then you can make the choice. If something comes up nice in the Soul Merchant, maybe I turn them into soul coins and get the soul I'm looking for. Otherwise, if an event comes along and I can spend these and get a champion, well, I can always pull the soul later, and I can always build these back up later. Getting a free champion that is guaranteed and a very specific champion is a great prize. So maybe I spend these things on getting that champion instead. Okay, so for some of the things you're going to want to also save up for in the tavern, you've got, of course, your brews, and it's always nice to have some extra brews laying around. I generally recommend trying to not go under 100 or not go under 50, I guess, just in case you have an emergency where you need to use those brews for something. And it's, if it's really, really bad, you can drop a barrel on somebody, even if it's not efficient. I generally like the barrels for bringing somebody from level 1 to level 60 from a 5-star or 6-star. But it's really rare I get a chance to actually do that. So the barrels just kind of sit around sometimes. So maybe if I'm going to bring somebody from level 1 to level 5 to be able to, or level 1 to level 50, for example, as a 5-star champion, maybe it might be worth just using a barrel. And sometimes if you just need to use the barrel, you need to use the barrel. But as you can see here, one of the things I will do is I'll save up a bunch of champions to be made into other champions for later for an event. So if we look here, I've got a bunch of level 10s ready to go to 2 stars to give me some 2-star chickens. I've got a bunch of level 20s that will become 3-star chickens. I don't have a lot of level 30s at the moment on this account, so that's probably something I should start farming up a few of. But I also have 5 level 40s here. So literally, once I can actually get enough 4-star chickens, I can flip each one of these into 5 stars, and I have enough to make a 6-star champion by flipping these into 5 stars. One of the things I like to do for that is I have all 5 of my Guardian rings unlocked, but just plain old unlocked. There's no reason to really increase these any more than this, but the fact that you get these at 300 gems each makes them very viable to unlock, and it's a lot of passive XP. So what I will do is, you'll see here, I've got a bunch of 4-star champions, and they all started at level 25 because they all had 6 brews into them. And basically, once or twice a day, I will click over them and kick them over the next level, and it takes about a week, and I'll have these guys ready to go as 4 stars, ready to become 5-star chickens. And it keeps me going on champion training. So it's a great way to save up resources for a champion training and prepare to be able to compete in a champion training tournament or prepare for yourself for a fusion of some kind. One of the other things you can do is you can make sure that you are stashing some of these energy potions here in your vault. So you've got, in your inbox here, you get these things daily. In fact, I can collect those right now because I got plenty, and you can check these things to see if they're going to expire. So if you have anything that's going to expire in the next 4 or 5 days, then go ahead, use it. There's no reason in losing it if you're not going to get a chance to use it. But if you can, save it. Well, these are 3 energy refills. So this is effectively 120 gems I have stashed away for use here in my inbox. So that can help me for the energy intensive events, such as things in Dungeon Divers or the champion training if you're doing it a lot in campaign, and that can be very helpful. So save up there, save up your gems. About 1,000 gems seems to be a very good way to go. You don't necessarily need a full 1,000 gems. Sometimes you can do it in 500. It really does depend on where you're farming, how advanced your account is, and honestly, it also depends on how good the rewards are. I have actually gone into fusions with under 500 gems and come out with more gems than I had going into it, because between the daily stuff plus all the tournaments I was doing, I found myself getting a good amount of gems and managed to increase the number of gems that I had on the account. So that doesn't mean I don't want some of these initially, because sometimes one of the initial energy investments is going to be very, very early. So keep in mind, save those gems. Honestly, I never want to get below about 300 gems if I can avoid it, because I always want to have the energy to do something special if I need to do something special in a hurry on the account. So, what you want to do with your gems is up to you. If you're going to buy the gem pass, then that is great. That is a great way to get yourself 2,000 extra gems. It's a great deal if you're willing to spend on raid, and it's only $10 every 30 days, or actually every 29 days effectively. And it'll honestly keep you in a lot of fusions that you might not otherwise be in. And if you're going to do that, then if you go lower, you're fine. And if you don't go lower, eventually you build a bunch of these up and maybe even spend them on, shards at some point in time. Finally, do keep track of your potions and be aware of what your potions do. Now, the upcoming champions for this particular fusion, I believe, are Void for the rares, and I think they're Force for the epic, which means I've got plenty of potions and it's not going to be a problem. But if the epic happened to be a magic, I would be a little worried because maybe this wouldn't be enough potions for the magic. And I probably should be a little worried that I might need a few more of the arcane potions, at least the big ones. You don't need tons of these things. You need a few, you need like 100, maybe 200 at most for most fusions of the white ones and whatever other ones you're going to be dealing with. But it is nice to have extras just in case, because it's very, very nice to be able to ascend champions when you want to. And it absolutely sucks if you want to ascend somebody, say if I want to ascend a magic champion, and it turns out I don't have enough of these things and the magic potion is 3 days away, or the magic keep even 4 days away. It can be several days away if you hit the wrong interval. And that sucks. It feels really bad because it means you just missed what you could have farmed for those. So, make sure you have enough of these potions to do some of these fusions. You don't need overkill, but it's nice to have some of these things. And that means occasionally actually diving into a potion dungeon, as much as they suck, and running a few of those till you get a bunch of good potions. But it also means doing the usual things that you should be doing anyway, such as clan boss, making sure you do your Doom Tower, making sure you do the Cursed City stuff. That is all kinds of places where you can get these extra brews here and make sure that you have enough to do whatever you want to do at any given time. So you might finally think, Bront, that's all good, but how do I build up these resources? Well, I've already talked about Clan Boss. I've already talked about things like Iron Twins. And other than that, running dungeons, doing different tournaments when it is not a particular competition is a great way to get stuff. Right here, you'll see, for example, if I decided to put a couple of refills into this spider one, I might have been able to get another ancient shard, possibly also, climb up here and get like this top one here where I could have gotten an ancient shard and 100 gems as opposed to the 75 gems here. But as long as I watch where my energy is, save energy, target specific rewards for these things, and run the things that give me extra rewards in the first place, I'll find that I'll be building up gear that I can either sell or remove or promote so that I can use some of the enhancement events. And then I'll end up having silver because I'll have been selling that gear. So that kind of cascades on itself. But on top of that, you get gems here. You can get other rewards. You can get basalt here. I got pizza points for the Titan tournament here. You got some gold or silver here as well. Again, I got something in a chest. I don't even know what I got from that particular chest. But making sure you're picking and choosing some of these tournaments, investing in them because it happens to be worth it. I mean, hey, Classic Arena Takedown, that's an easy one for me to do. Get some energy, get some gems, get the reward claimed here. I am definitely going to get this little itty bitty soul up here. It's not much, but I'm already running a ton of Classic Arena anyway because it's good for my account. So why not get extra rewards out of it while I'm doing it? And even if I'm not spending the extra energy, if I'm just spending my 130 daily, and to be fair, I should be spending this stuff, so I will certainly do that when I'm done recording this video. Make sure your energy is constantly growing. Do not save energy up here. Be using it because the used energy here is going to translate into extra rewards that you will then have to make things like champion training easier, your gear ascension easier, things like your dungeon divers easier, because it translates into gems, it translates into silver, it translates into gear, it translates into champions you can level up. It translates into usable, tangible tools to be able to make fusions and get free champions. And finally, one of the most difficult things, going back to the shard pulling, make sure that if you're going to pull on a shard event, you know what your mercy is. It's very, very helpful to track your mercy. And, you can have tools like RSL Helper to help track your mercy. That does help. But also know what the odds are and know what the rewards are. So you may want to skip a 2x void just because it doesn't fall during a fusion. So you can make sure you can make a fusion later on. Sometimes you want to set your limit to X number of shards for any particular event because you want to hit a specific threshold in the tournament event because that's what you're finding important, and then you save the rest because you might be able to get it guaranteed. Having that level of restraint can pay off in spades when guaranteed events that you can hit that you might not have been able to otherwise come up, as well as the ability to do fusions and get free champions. We look on my account here, take a look at all this gold up here, let's include my master vault and reserve vault. As you can see, I've actually built most of my legendaries at least to 5-star. I've done something with them. In some cases I've geared them, in some cases I haven't. But Tholen, fusion. Michelangelo, free champion. Alice, free champion. Arludex, free champion. Fabian, fusion. Quintus, free champion. Sun Wukong was a free champion through a code. Mithrala, free champion. Arbiter, free champion. Syl, free champion. Lamasu, free champion. Lydia, free champion. So all but 2 of these champions on this top row were champions that I got from something other than shard pulls. And we go to the next row down below, another fusion. Okay. Cleopteryx could be a free champion, but I happen to actually pull her. Hey, there's a fusion, free champion, fusion, free champion, fusion. Here we go. More than 80% of my legendaries are fusions or free champions that I've gotten for free in some other fashion. So I hear people talk about how fusions are just resource drains for not any return. But I can tell you that a lot of these fusion champions I am relying on my account. In fact, the only fusion champion that I am not using actively is Titus, and that's because I just don't have a good team for him yet. I know he's good. I know he will help me when I can build the right shield growth team together. I have a Brogni and I have nobody that extends buffs, so I can't keep that shield up on him, and I don't have the other gear to do other things with him with the shield. So I have not been using my Titus. But that doesn't mean he wasn't worth going for. And again, a lot of these other champions were worth going for, and I'm using them, even if it's something as simple as Ishiyama helped me beat Faction Wars normal. Well, that was a viable reason to get that champion and pull him out and build him. And on top of that, a lot of these fragment champions, they've been useful in summoning other champions so that I've been able to do multiple other fusions as well. So don't sleep on saving up for these guaranteed events, guaranteed champions, and doing these fusions. It is a great way to get legendaries on your account. And yes, they're not always the most meta legendaries, but in some cases, you get a Fabian. He's a meta legendary. Sometimes you get an Armand. He's a meta legendary. Honestly, Donatello is a meta legendary. He's not the best legendary in his meta, but for many people, he's going to be the best you're going to have because he's absolutely amazing. So don't sleep on these fusions. Don't sleep on saving up, and be wise in spending your resources. And you too can have some fun playing Raid Shadow Legends with some really cool champions that you'll get through events like this. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you really appreciated this video. I realized that this was long and very rambly, but honestly, I felt I wanted to do a breakdown of all the ways that you can save different pieces of gear, events, and stuff like that to do tournaments, to do fusions, make the most out of your account. As far as farming dungeons are concerned, I actually do have a video where I talk about what's the most effective way to farm dungeons. I'll actually link that over here. So you'll see that at the end of the video. So go stay tuned to the end of this video and go check out that one. We talk about the efficiency of the different dungeons. I think I have a link to a spreadsheet you can download and you can check for yourself. What is the most effective way to dump my energy? What level will get me the most rewards? And overall, I think that will be a very helpful way to make sure that you can hit fusions and get good champions in Raid. So, I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day. Until the next video, I am Bront, CatHerder.